So after my much longer than necessary break, of which I apologize for, it's time to start the year off and finally get to some more platformers. And why not start off with one of my favorites? Sly Cooper Thieves in Time is coming out oh so very soon, and I just can't let that game come out without detailing my love for this marvelous raccoon. I first got all three of the games at a flea market a little over a year ago for like less than $15 in total, and in such a short amount of time it quickly escalated to one of my favorite platformer series ever. The Sly Cooper trilogy comes to us from Sucker Punch, the team responsible for Rocket Robot on Wheels for the N64, and more recently the Infamous series on PS3, all of which are actually pretty awesome, but to me, Sly Cooper is their magnum opus. And we can actually thank the creation of Sly to what I think is safe to assume, Rocket Robot on Wheels not really catching on, since afterwards Sucker Punch combined their forces with Sony, which resulted in the raccoon we know so well today. And now that I can't think of anything else I can say to prolong this video any further, let's get started with the first game in the trilogy released all the way back in 2002, Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus, which first off I gotta say, is a pretty amazing game title. You European folk call this game Sly Raccoon instead. Pfft, nerds. Sly Cooper is set in a realistic world just filled to the brim with the feeling of a comic book and film noir motifs. The story of the game tells of a long line of master thieves that are known for stealing from organizations rather than the innocent. The latest up-and-coming Cooper to follow in the family tree is Sly, and one day while Sly is with his father, their house gets broken into by a group known as the Fiendish Five, consisting of Sir Rally, the machinist frog, Mugshot, the muscular crime hound bulldog, Ms. Ruby, the mystical crocodile, Panda King, the demolitions expert, and Clockwork, the robotic owl with a history of hunting down the Cooper line. They kill Sly's father and rip the pages out of the Thievius Raccoonus, a book that recorded all the journeys taken by the rest of the Cooper family. And all of this while Sly himself is watching. Talk about being evil. With nobody to take care of him, Sly Cooper is brought to an orphanage where he meets his two best friends, the happy-go-lucky Muscle Murray and the intelligent Bentley. And all three of them then become the Cooper gang and start pulling off heists and robberies that fit right back into the family lineage. This catches the attention of Interpol agent Carmelita Montoya Fox, who basically set her life goal to now catch the Cooper gang. Of course, though, we can't really have that without having some subtle romantic quips coming from both her and Sly.
Hey, you know, that bazooka really brings out the color of your eyes. Very fetching.
Aw, how precious. And now at the start of the game, Sly finds out the location of a member from the Fiendish Five from breaking into Carmelita's office, and from there it's the Cooper gang's goal to take down the group that took out Sly's father and bring the Thievius Raccoonus back to one piece. While the story doesn't affect much of the actual adventure because you're constantly just aiming for more bad guys, I gotta admit that this is a pretty damn well done backstory. It actually kinda makes you care for Sly and really wants you to right the wrongs that the Fiendish Five caused. Nicely done! Sly Cooper is a platformer that really bases itself on stealth and avoiding being spotted by enemies, really acrobatic stunts, and it also actually feels pretty similar to the original Crash Bandicoot games with a bunch of linear point A to B levels. Sly walks around carrying his family candy you could use to take out enemies, and has a ton of different side moves to use. The really interesting thing though is that all of these moves along with a few upgrades to these moves are unlockable and optional. Each level has a main level complete item with keys, as well as a plethora of clue bottles spread throughout them that you can collect and bring to the level safe to unlock one of these moves. Now it's really awesome that every level rewards you with a new move to add to your arsenal, but the thing is, most of these are actually kinda useless. The dive and roll are pretty cool, and there are upgrades that make it so you don't take damage from landing in water or falling down pits, but the others are only really just there to mess with if you feel like it and serve no real purpose. But hey, then again, they're all optional and a pretty simple in concept platformer, so you can't really complain too much, at least they tried. You gain some of the more useful power-ups by beating the bosses, and what's really nifty about this is you're treated to a cutscene detailing how one of the members of the Cooper family used the power you just learned. It's one of the many reasons that make the Sly world feel more and more real. Now what I really like about this game is just how fun it is to play as Sly because he's incredibly acrobatic. By jumping and pressing the circle button on damn near everything, Sly performs spire jumps, walks on tight ropes, walks on ledges, he just feels very agile and is just a blast to control. The only sort of issue with the game is that for a game designed around being thiefy and being stealthy, the actual adventure is pretty lacking when it comes to thieving. Yeah, the point of the story is to steal back the Thievius Raccoonus, which is fine and dandy, but you don't steal anything else. Stuff like pickpocketing and item stealing are elements that the sequels put into place, but this one just has you smashing away at things and collecting coins. Staying out of enemy sight is also not really much of a priority because only a few enemies are designed to be avoided, whereas there are many others that you have to fight. Thankfully they go down in one hit, and personally, I find it absolutely hilarious that some of the characters could be looking directly at you, but as long as you're outside of their little flashlight shine, it's like you don't even exist. Truly a staple of the series. Now, what would a platformer be in this era without some non-platforming levels that take part in the adventure as well? There are a few levels that put Murray in the spotlight, because I'm sure the developers felt like they had to give him some sort of purpose aside from being the lovable goof in the world select screen. There are missions where Murray goes through an area completely weaponless, so instead, as Sly, you have to aim around the screen and shoot at enemies and obstacles that get in his way. Then there are some levels where Murray's in the Cooper Gang van and needs to race some other random people. And lastly, there are a few levels where Sly rides a special vehicle with a turret gun that you control like a twin-stick shooter. Overall, these levels are a nice change of pace, although they seem kinda pointless. Like before, for a game themed around being stealthy, something like racing just seems totally out of place. Hey, believe me, I am all for variety, but they just seem kind of forced in this environment. More random missions and minigames are in the sequels too, but they actually explain their inclusion a lot better and make them feel right. And admittedly, this is not really a problem, more so just an observation. Then there are the boss fights that are actually pretty cool. They mostly balance strategy and up-close combat, making each boss fight stand out from each other. But trust me, I'm going to talk about bosses again in just a bit. Outside of the main level completion missions, each level also has a speedrun to it, which is another reason why this game is pretty reminiscent of Crash Bandicoot, more specifically Crash 3 Warped. Once you beat a level and open its safe, you will unlock the ability to do a speedrun of that level. Now typically speedruns don't really do it for me. They really just seem more stressful than anything else, because not only does one little mistake ruin the entire run, it just pisses you the hell off. But that being said, in the case of Sly Cooper, what makes these interesting is needing to speed through the level while avoiding being caught in the searchlights, because if you do, time speeds up until you break the little switches that trigger the lights. This little tweak actually made the speedruns more enjoyable to me, because it gives you a bit of a different mindset to play through instead of just, oh okay, now do what you did before, but faster. But the kicker is, another part of these being awesome is the reward you get for completing them. By successfully completing these Master Thief sprints, you will unlock the level's commentary, which means you can play through the level again and have the option to listen to the developers talk about the level's different elements and how it came to be, while you play through it. That right there is easily one of the coolest unlockables in like any game I have ever played, ever. Listening to developers talk about how their game came to be is one thing, but listening to them do it level by level as you play through it is incredible! Say what you will about this game, I don't care if you like it or not, but you can't tell me this commentary idea isn't one of the coolest ideas implemented in any platformer or any game ever. So now it's time to talk about the negatives, but really I don't have that many. First off is the matter of difficulty, which really doesn't bother me at all, but I've seen people who don't like this so much. Sly Cooper only has 1 hit point, but you can gain another one by finding a horseshoe or collecting 100 coins, allowing you up to 3 hits. Now to me, and this is sort of obvious, but this is just yet another throwback to Crash Bandicoot and the Aku Aku mask. And actually, I feel like this evens out the lack of stealth play in the world. Being spotted makes you a very easy target, so the lack of a health bar makes things more tense, which actually seems like pretty smart design. But truly, the only big problem I have with this game here is the boss fight with Ms. Ruby, and Sly Cooper fans know exactly what I'm talking about. The fights with Sir Rally, Mugshot, and Panda King are pretty cool, and each one gives you a decent challenge and pattern to memorize, and the final boss fight with Clockwork is actually a pretty damn epic conclusion, but Miss Ruby's fight is, oh god, it is awful. What happens in this fight is actually a rhythmic button copying game, sorta like Parappa the Rappa, which would actually be kinda fine. The game was clearly not afraid to be more random at any other point anyway. The issue is, the music that plays is not in sync with the buttons, even though it sorta puts off the illusion of being so, forcing you to memorize the rhythm in spite of what you're hearing. Spoiler warning, that was not a good idea! I was so damn close multiple times to making this a controller throwing moment, even in my 3rd playthrough. Just imagine playing a game like Rhythm Heaven or Owen Dawn when the music is like half a second off. You will want to blow your brain out. But aside from that garbage boss fight, I really have nothing else but positives to say for the game. Each world is set up like a cartoon episode with a corny title card and all, which is awesome, and each Fiendish 5 member has a bio about them before the episode starts, which gives you a good idea of who you're messing with. And it's just little details like that that really make the game stand out from the rest, and just knowing who you're up against is a really sweet touch. It all adds cohesion to the world. It actually makes each place feel like a world instead of just a level, if that makes any sense. The art style and soundtrack definitely help here too, making the entire game feel pretty damn atmospheric. And the best case of this is in Miss Ruby's homeworld, where the atmosphere is just through the roof. And really what makes Sly Cooper as awesome as it is are the characters and their personalities, and it's pretty apparent right at the start of the game where you're getting into.
Sly! Do you read me?
Yeah, I read you. Loud and very loud.
And man, Sly Cooper is such a suave dude, and his voice is just so heavenly. He always has the coolest thing to say, and he's just like the coolest guy ever. But the other characters are all perfect for what the game aims for as well. And hell, I can imagine Clockwork's voice terrifying small children. He is such a cool main bad guy. Bentley and Murray don't really get much time in the spotlight here, so they stick to being pretty unknown until the sequels, so that's kind of a bummer. And the only voice that's sorta iffy is Carmelita, but hell, that might as well be another staple of the series. Her voice is different in each game, and none of them are that good. In this game, I guess her accent is fine enough, but she's so emotionless, you can't feel with her. I don't know what Sly sees in her. Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus released over 10 freaking years ago, and even though the game is the first in a series where things are radically different in the later games, this game still holds up pretty damn well. Sly controls like a charm with the smooth, agile movement, then you add the sweet characterization, an awesome art style, a pretty good story that actually gives you motivation to go on that leads to a pretty awesome final boss, and actually a camera that isn't an issue. You can't really go wrong. I unfortunately didn't get the chance to play this as a kid, but I can still say that this game pulls off the retro 3D platformer type perfectly fine with an awesome sense of style. Anytime a game can pull off a fantastic atmosphere while keeping the game purely enjoyable is an instant winner to me. Back when the game launched, it received very solid reviews, and it sold well enough to become a greatest hit, and even though it clearly got overshadowed by the likes of Ratchet and Jack, Sucker Punch just kept on delivering. So next time I'll be taking a look at Sly 2, Band of Thieves. Thanks for watching the review, and I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, I'll catch y'all next time.